like the belief that they really feel like they can win. That's part of it.
Yeah, for me, it's just, number one, it starts with your mindset, as you're alluding to, but they just have to execute. Like, the unfortunate part about a lot of these AFC teams that you're talking about is they feel like they have to play the perfect game against the Chiefs. And to your point, I don't think Philly feels like we got to be perfect across the board. Now, you understand who you're going up against, but we also know who we are. So our margin of error, like, they feel, and what Saquon is saying is, man, they got to play us. Like, I get the whole mystique. Everybody knows it. But in that locker room, how Saquon said that, that's exactly how they feel. A lot of those guys who lost to them a couple years ago in the Super Bowl, they feel like, man, we should have won that game. Like, that's the mentality. And if you have that, now you go into it with a guy who's been all world, everything. You're bringing him to the fight now? Like, if you just execute your game plan and be physical up front, like, they have the team to get it done. Like, it should be a really good game. This is going to be a challenge for both of these teams.
Yeah, so listen, I said this earlier, I'll say it again. I am not acting like, before the Texans game, I acted like it was impossible for the Chiefs to lose. And you got a little annoyed with me, I understand, but it's really how I felt. I was like, there's no scenario where I could see the Chiefs losing that game. I did not feel that way about Buffalo. I thought they could lose. I didn't think they would. And I do not feel that way about this game. I think they could lose. I don't think they will. What I do feel confident in is Saquon is not going to do to Kansas City what he did to everyone in the NFC playoffs. I think and again, his numbers in the NFC Championship game were human instead of superhuman, but it felt like he could have gone for 300 yards. You know what I mean?
Carries,
they scored 55 points anyway. So it didn't. I think Kansas City is the best tackling team in the NFL. I think it's one of their biggest strengths is all of their corners can tackle. So when you get out in space, they still get you to the ground.
They're willing to tackle.
Yeah, sure. They're willing tacklers, all of it. And so one of the most exciting parts about this game, for everyone, but for our show specifically, is I do think it'll be, for good or for bad, a Jalen Hurts game. I don't think the scenario you laid out is a hypothetical of.
Okay. We've already done the take on Jalen Hurts, and they're just going to rehash it, and I already posted it, so I'm not going to let this whole segment turn into a whole, can Jalen Hurts do it or not? We've just done that so many times. And we're going to have to continue to do it on Thursday, Friday, and then next Monday, Tuesday. And so we just can't turn every single clip into Jalen Hurts. I'm just not going to allow it. I'm just not. I just can't. But I love how Brew's like, I like that they believe that they actually can win. And it's like, well, yeah. They're a top team in the NFL. They're in the Super Bowl. Like this is their second Super Bowl in 3 years. Of course they believe that they can win. Like obviously. I really 100% agree with what Greg is saying. Do I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to do everything they can to contain Saquon, and they're going to try to put it on the plate of Jalen Hurts? Sure. And again, if Jalen Hurts didn't have A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, if Jalen Hurts couldn't be mobile himself and it was just Saquon, then yeah, that would be more of an issue without a shadow of a doubt. But that's what makes the Eagles such a special team, is their ability to be so deep and layered and beat you in so many different ways. And this is also the benefit, and this is kind of what this isn't what Greg was saying, but this just adds more to what Greg was saying, because he said, the Philadelphia Eagles doesn't feel like they need to be a perfect team in order to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that's wholeheartedly true. I do think there's a feeling that you have to be perfect and massive to beat the Kansas City Chiefs when you're the Bills, when you're the Bengals, the Ravens, etc. But the Philadelphia Eagles do not feel that way. And the benefit of the Philadelphia Eagles is that they've now won in many different ways. Essentially, every single type of way that you can win, the Philadelphia Eagles have won. They've made their mistakes. They've had key drop passes. They've had some turnovers. They played sloppy. They played dominant. And then let the game get away from them a little bit. And then it came down to the very end. Like, it's gone in many different directions. They've had games where they were dominant start to finish. They've had games where they started off slow and then got dominant. They had games where they started off slow but still got the win in the end. Like, it's just every single way. And that was the problem with a team like the Detroit Lions. And it showed when they were going up against the Commanders. It was kind of like, we've never been in this moment before. And they were trying to rely on their trickery. Like, they couldn't play, what I call, which is not necessarily the proper word for it, but what I call it, small ball. They could not shrink the game down. They could not just say, okay, we just need to do some of these little things. We just need to get Jared Goff a 5-yard pass here, a nice little screen pass there, a nice hand the ball off and just get 5 yards, 4 yards. Like, they were so much with big player bust, trick player bust, and it hurt them. They did not know what to do in that moment. They just need to go for home run after home run after home run. And that's not the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles absolutely benefit some of those big home run plays, like obviously Saquon just taking off and running, or Jalen Hurts for that matter. No doubt about it. But like I said, they've now won in so many different ways. They've won where they needed to march down the field. They've won where they needed to stop the opposing offense from marching down the field. They've won. They were up big and then had their lead shrink down. Like, they've just been in all the scenarios over the last couple of years, let alone just this season alone. They've already experienced everything. So it's a great spot to be in for the Philadelphia Eagles because they fundamentally understand the assignment. And this Kansas City Chiefs team should not give them any surprises. And the luxury is they kind of saw where things went against the Texans. They saw where things went for the Buffalo Bills. For this Eagles team, they played against the Packers, and I wouldn't say that the Eagles necessarily played such a great, beautiful game. And Jordan Love, and they had those turnovers. And then the second game was a snow game. I wonder if you're a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator, whatever, like, are you watching the snow game and really trying to look and see what they did? Like, I don't know if you are, because it's just too specific of a game. And then again, against the Commanders, it was just a dominant win. So I'm just so curious to see, like, if Spags is really looking at those last 3 games to be like, this is what the Eagles want to do. I'm like, I don't know. Is it? Is it? Like, I don't know. I just don't know. And then if you now look at the whole season, you've seen them play in so many different ways. You really have. And it kind of works in the favor as well for the Kansas City Chiefs to a degree, because you've seen the Kansas City Chiefs now play 95% of their games without the roster that they have right now. They've only had this, like, true roster right now for the last, like, 2 or 3 games, if that. Now that you have Brown there and Hopkins together, et cetera, et cetera. But they obviously have an example of the Buffalo Bills, which is a great team. Like, that's the benefit. That's the benefit. I don't know if you can make the argument that the Packers and the Rams were a great team. You can make the argument that the Commanders were a great team, but it was still a very specific situation on the road against a team that has never been there before, rookie quarterback, all of that type of stuff. And again, the Eagles were obviously better, so I'm not downplaying the Eagles' win. Like, I praised the Eagles for that win and slammed anyone who tried to take it away from them. So I don't mean it in that. I'm just saying, like, it's still just very specific. The Eagles now got to see what Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills did against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, to me, that is the best matchup for you to be able to be like, what do these, what does the Kansas City Chiefs want to do offensively and defensively? I don't know if you can watch the Philadelphia Eagles over the last 3 games and be like, this is what they want to do. They want Saquon Barkley to rip off a 60-yard touchdown run. And it's like, well, yes, that is what they want to do. Glad we got that figured out. They like to do brotherly shoves. Yes, good. Glad we got that figured out. Good. And I think also now just even going up against Jaden Daniels helps them, because there was more work against a mobile quarterback. They made some of their mistakes. They gave up some easy gains to Jaden. Like, the defense is now kind of primed and wired for that. Fangio, you argue, made some mistakes. And again, everyone makes mistakes. But, it's just stuff for them to kind of work with and learn and grow with. So I think, how does Philly pull off this upset? I think in a way it's pretty straightforward. Obviously execution and obviously minimizing mistakes. This can't be the game that Jalen Hurts decides to throw an interception. This can't be a game where Jake Elliott misses a 43-yard field goal. It just can't be. This is not the game where you miss an extra point. It just can't be. This is not the game where the Eagles go for it on 4th and 1 with the tush push on their own 40 and then they don't get it. This is not the game that any of those things can happen. It's just not. It's just not. I think those things fester a team in the Super Bowl like that. It's one thing if this team won in 22, then I would say differently. But this is one of those things where it would make everyone start to feel a little bit tighter, a little bit more anxious. And so this can't be that thing. You know, the Eagles had it was like 4th and 3, I think, against the Commanders, and Jalen throws a beautiful ball to AJ. In the Super Bowl, it's like this can't be the game where AJ, you know, kind of has possession as he's falling out of bounds, and I don't think he secured it. You can see his knee hit out of bounds, and yeah, you know, Tom, I just don't think he really had possession just yet. And then nope, incomplete pass. Like that can't be it. That can't be it. You know, this is not the time where Saquon can get the ball and he keeps only getting like 2 yards, 1 yard. Oh, and a tackle for loss. That's Saquon Barkley's 3rd time he's been tackled for a loss. No, you know, it's 3rd and 9, and the Philadelphia Eagles really don't like to be in these situations. It really limits their offense. Like, that's not the game. That's not it. The Eagles have to impose their will. They have to be the dominant, physical, fearless team. That's what they have to be. In a lot of ways, they have to be what the Washington Commanders did to the Detroit Lions. Because I don't think what the Philadelphia Eagles did to the Commanders is necessarily relevant because, again, this is the Kansas City Chiefs here. And again, we know this defense. This defense is technically the 2nd best defense in the NFL, second to the Philadelphia Eagles. And this Kansas City Chiefs offense is going to be significantly better than what any of their rankings show because they have not been 100% healthy. And plus, we know, like, Andy Reid's going to bring it. So to me, so much of this game comes down to, out of everything that I just said, so much of it will also really come down to Fangio versus Mahomes and Andy. Can Fangio slow down this Kansas City Chiefs offense? Can they make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable? Can they force some turnovers? Because even in the last 3 playoff games, the Eagles have been able to take advantage of, I mean, I think each game had at least 3 turnovers. At least 2. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Packers had 3. The Commanders had 4. Technically 4, but really 3 because that last one was just kind of more like, hey, you know, Jaden has to throw it up. And the Rams turnovers. And so it's like, can you force turnovers? Can Fangio minimize the damage that Patrick Mahomes has done? Because we've seen some low-scoring games for the Kansas City Chiefs. We've seen it. We've seen it against the Raiders. We've seen it against the Chargers. We've seen it against the Broncos. This needs to be, you know, we always talk about a master class of Andy Reid and a master class of Spags and a master class of Mahomes. This needs to be a master class of Fangio. Vic Fangio has to absolutely, it needs to just be like an absolute, oh no, and now it's 4th and long and it looks like the Chiefs are going to punt it. Yeah, I think they probably would have gone for it if it was 4th and 3, but, you know, now it's 4th and 9. I think the punt is the right move here. Like, that's the game it's got to be. That's the game it's got to be. And then on offense for the Eagles, it's got to be these sustained drives. These sustained, comfortable drives. Not this high octane where it just feels like, oh my God. Oh, that ball could have been intercepted. Okay. Now it's going to be now you're going to be a little bit nervous to have Jalen push the ball down the field. Or, oh my God, AJ Brown was open and it just, he just didn't catch it. Like, oh my God, now it's 2nd and 10. 3rd and 9. Jalen Hurts takes a sack. Can't be that. This has to be a game where they are just in control offensively and dominant defensively. I think that's ultimately what I believe, at least right now. Right now, they need to be in control offensively, dominant defensively. And again, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to dominate, the Kansas City Chiefs offense and Mahomes and all of that. Like, I'm not saying, I'm just saying what the Eagles have to be defensively. And because I don't know. I mean, it could be the opposite. It could be like, you know what? Mahomes is going to put up points. That's just the way it goes. and Andy Reid is as well, and the Eagles just have to be dominant offensively. But I feel as though that's what happened in 22, and it wasn't enough, and they lost. And we've seen the Chiefs again, like even up against the Bills. The Bills have a terrible defense. The Bills have a bottom 5 defense. And they put up, 32. The Bills have an awful defense. Awful, 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 awful. We saw what the Rams did to the Bills. Look what the Eagles did to the Rams. We saw what the Ravens were able to do against the Chiefs. And look what the Eagles did to the Ravens. So that's what I'm trying to get at. The Eagles can force a game where the Chiefs are just not putting up points and not doing what they want to offensively, and they're just in control offensively for the Eagles, and just take care of the ball and be smart and just play simple, fundamental, basic, like non-fancy football. And they just move the chains, dominate the clock, get the touchdowns, kick the field goals. Kick the field goals. 4th and 3 on the 20, and you kick the field goal. Up 17-3 now. You know, you just stay ahead. You never give them any momentum. You never give the Chiefs an extra possession, whatever it may be. You never give them good field position, which then also leads me to special teams. No special teams mistakes. The Chiefs feast off that, even against the Bills. A huge punt return. And the Eagles throughout the playoffs have been like near flawless. I think, was it Cooper DeJean who maybe dropped the ball in the snowstorm? I forget. But he still got it. Or whoever it was. But, pinning them back on the 1-2 yard line. A punt return or a kickoff return, there isn't a big run where now they're in the 40. It's going to be so many of these other things. And if you don't believe me, just go watch the 22 Super Bowl and see where it went wrong. So, yeah, that's why I to me, all the rant that I just said, and I said a lot, I get it, I said a lot, is more interesting than just being like, can Jalen Hurts pull it off? It's just like, okay, we've done that. We've had that conversation. And I'm not also just going to be like, oh, well, Saquon Barkley is not going to be able to be good in this game. I mean, will he be able to rush for 350 yards? Probably not. Will there be moments that he gets stopped? Probably. Most definitely. So then it's going to be like, all right, how does Kellen Moore set it up so that when Jalen needs to be that guy, he's that guy? When the Eagles still need Saquon to still rip off a run, how do they set it up? That's going to be the interesting thing. It's not a matter of just tackling and being a willing tackler and have a good defensive line and a good, corners that are willing to do this. It's not just about that. It's also feeding off of this. Is Jalen going to keep it? Is Jalen going to give it to Saquon? Is he going to keep it and run? Is he going to keep it and throw? Are they going to do some interesting stuff with Dallas Goedert, with Devontae? I think Devontae had a couple little, pseudo handoffs, and same thing with Dallas Goedert. I always, even when they're not technically like handoffs or anything like that, in my mind, I just put that in like the run box, because that's essentially what it is in the run category, even if it doesn't necessarily officially go there. Like, that's the interesting stuff. So yeah, this game will be cool. This game will be, it's going to be interesting. And we still got many more days to talk about it. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? How do you think they pull off this upset? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.